Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dive Deep. We're back after a long break, I guess. We didn't do it for a while. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Shelby Cornett. I'm the ministry assistant here at Cambridge City Christian Church.
Ministry
and
boss.
I'm
and
the boss.
Queen of, what did we say? Queen of.
I'm the
queen,
cyber
the cyber
queen.
queen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With all the fun tech stuff I'm learning.
Yes.
So for Dive Deep each week, I talk to Danny or sometimes Travis about this past Sunday's sermon, and we just go in depth a little bit more, and I ask questions I have or make comments or just get into it some more. So can you tell everybody, first of all, hi? I guess I should say hi.
Hi, yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, our message this past week, we talked about prayer, and the sermon title was "Pray Like Jesus," prayer like Jesus. They're out of Mark, 1? We're still in the first chapter. We've been in there for a little while now.
Yeah.
Next week we'll be in Mark 2, but we talked about Jesus and how he prayed, and how he didn't allow things to get in the way of his prayer time,
Right?
And how important it was for him to find those solitary places. And I challenged everyone at the message to go big and to go small with prayer. And I've encouraged everyone to take 10 minutes every week to go, or not every week, every day, to go somewhere that they can get away from the quote unquote crowds. So whether that's in your car or a bedroom late at night when the kids are in bed or wherever, do that 10 minutes a day to start, and then find those smaller moments, those second here, second there, quick 1 or 2 sentence prayers throughout your day. So go big and go small. So that was that's kind of in a nutshell what we talked about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I took notes this week.
Okay. All right.
And I basically wrote like the challenges of prayer.
Yeah.
Because it's something I struggle with sometimes, especially I think being a new Christian. It's hard. So the first thing I wrote was that, like, I feel like I so often rely on myself to make the changes that I should just be praying about. Like, I rely on myself and other people when I should pray about it. And I think it's because, like, right now we're taught to be independent and to not rely on others.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, that is, so there's a lot of great things about living in the United States. I mean, we're blessed in so many ways, but I would say one of the negatives that I even see Christians say this, and it really concerns me because it's I'll just be frank, it's very anti-biblical. The idea that you have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You have to do everything on your own. Rugged individualism is a word that's been given out here over the last 100 years or so. That's not biblical.
Yeah.
We are to work together, and obviously the person we work with first is God himself. But the problem is we often just jump into things without seeking God's direction and will and what's going on. And it is hard because we've been trained since we were younger. I mean, even in school, we're told, hey, go out and grab those dreams, do what you want to do. And it's like, well, no, it's good to go after a dream, but make sure it's God's dream.
Yeah.
And not for you, because that's always going to be the right dream. I mean, your own dreams can be wrong for you. So yeah, I get where it could be hard. It's hard shifting that because we are taught that we have to do things ourselves, and then to say, okay, well, wait a minute, how does God fit into this?
Right.
So yeah, God has to be first.
I said, like, if God created everything, he created us, he created everything else, and we have the opportunity to pray to him and he hears us, like, why don't we do that as often as we should? It's just.
Yeah. I mean, that is it's kind of I mean, I think it varies from person to person what that answer would be, but you're exactly right. I mean, we all struggle with that. I mean, I struggle with that. We know that prayer is so good. It's so important. It's so effective. And yet, why don't we employ it? Why don't we use it more? And again, I think we are too busy and we don't take time to pray. And we just have this mindset that I'm going to go and do and then ask God to bless it rather than than do what God has already blessed.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's a subtle difference there. I mean, we often just go off and do something and say, okay, God, now bless it. And then when things go bad, we're like, well, what's the deal, God? Well, wait a minute. Are you doing it because he's blessed it already, or are you doing it to get his blessing?
Right.
And maybe that's why we don't pray so much.
Right.
Maybe that's it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I had one more challenge that I thought of.
Mm-hmm.
In the sermon, you said, "Know these and thous required."
Okay.
When you're praying, and that's something huge I struggle with.
Okay.
I think because I'm like, we have prayer on Tuesday mornings,
right?
And I'm still scared.
Yeah.
to
Yeah. You
pray.
come in and you pray with us, but you don't vocally pray.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that, I think it's probably more common than I think it is. But it's like I'm intimidated.
Yeah.
Because, well, you and Mary and Travis are like
well, especially Mary. Mary's like a prayer giant.
Yeah. I remember one time you said Mary oozes Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And, I love listening.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like I'm intimidated because I'm not that advanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like when I do my prayers, it's like
having
just a typical conversation.
So you know what I would say to you with that? What I would say to you with that is, you know what? When me or Travis or Mary pray, God's not impressed. So when you pray, it's it's going to be no different. We're all in the same boat.
Right.
Now, and from our perspective, you look at us and, I've been praying. I remember I was taught to pray in a public way from the time I was probably 3 or 4 years old. I mean, I was praying. I think I even was praying like in my preschool class at church.
Yeah.
And I remember in junior church, I always prayed out loud. I mean, I've just always been used to doing it. Mm-hmm. But God, when he hears our prayers, he loves when we pray, but it's not like he's like, well, Danny there, his prayer was much more eloquent. So we're going to give him a little bit more,
right.
a little bit more brownie points for praying, the these and the thous, not literally, but, praying more eloquently. That's not the way he looks at it. He's looking at our heart. I mean, I could pray and none of it come from my heart. And he's like, that's not a prayer. You're just talking to yourself, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would, that's what I would just say to you to encourage you about praying publicly is that it's when you pray, whether it's privately or publicly, it's never about others. And it's never even really about you. It's about who you're talking to.
Right.
So that's what always helped me is I always have seen it as I'm talking to God. So who cares? Well, let me back up. I guess in a way, I shouldn't care too much about what other people think.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to God. If it's coming from my heart, I'm being honest and I'm being biblical. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't be praying, hey, Lord, give me $10 million because, blah, blah, blah. I mean, but if I'm biblical and it's my heart, it really doesn't.
More about the connection then.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah. And when you're in a public setting, I mean, so I would say the setting like with Travis and Mary and I is a little bit different than like if you're in a church service and you're praying, because you have to keep in mind that you are leading people in a large group of people in prayer. So you're kind of voicing what everybody is saying. Yeah. So you do have to keep that in mind, but it's still not about being fancy. It's about being connected with God.
Right.
And I think part of the reason you probably feel this way and other people maybe feel this way through the years is because, unfortunately, I mean, I was even raised this way, and I'm not trying to down anybody. I'm really not. People can pray how they feel led. But I know growing up, there was a lot of people that I prayed with that would use a lot of these and thous. And I think some of us have maybe been exposed to that. We think that's the way you're supposed to do it. And
right.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's about being connected to God. I mean, in Mark 1 there that we looked at, I mean, Jesus went off to pray on his own. Do you really think that when him and God were talking that like he was all worried about being eloquent? I don't. I mean, usually the only reason we want to be eloquent is because other people are in the room.
Yeah.
And we're worried about what they're going to think. So I would just encourage you to keep that in mind when you pray.
Yeah.
If it's coming from the heart, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
makes me feel a little better.
Well, good. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that was all I wrote down as far as things I wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm,
but is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we handled most of it. One thing that I did talk about, I used the ice cream illustration.
Yeah.
I was
sprinkles.
Yeah, I was very tempted to just sit there and eat ice cream the whole time I was preaching because I'm like, wow, that looks really good. Although I did eat it afterward. Yeah, I had some left, and Travis was helping record some other stuff, and I'm sitting here.
And I wasn't invited.
Well, yeah, no, sorry, my ice cream's just for me.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the only other thing I would just remind everybody of is the hierarchy of ministry that Jesus used. First it was about God, prayer. That was the foundation. Then it went to preaching the gospel. Then it went to serving others, and last was himself. And we have to be in this continual. We have to have this continual effort to flip. I would say almost to flip the pyramid. Like when you think of a pyramid, you have the base, and then it gets smaller as you go up. And that's the way Jesus was with prayer, was the biggest part of who he was, followed by preaching, then serving. And then at the tip, that's the smallest, it was about himself. Usually we're the other way around. The very bottom of it's us, then maybe some others in the middle, and then a little bit. So we've got to get in this process of flipping it, where it's less about us and more about him. And prayer is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
So that would be my only other highlight I would remind everybody of.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Thanks for hosting Dive Deep.
Yeah.
Good to have you back in the host chair.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So, thank you guys for watching. And remember, if you have any questions, you can send them to the church. You can email them into the office. You can call, whatever you want to do. And we'll talk to Danny about those. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.